According to Britannica, tornado has damaged Bangladesh significantly. Tornado that struck Bangladesh in 1989 was recorded as the deadliest tornado in history. It killed 1,300 people in total and destroyed every building in roughly area of 2.5 square miles. Tornadoes are too fast to be measured, but by using Fujita scale, it was about F5 scale, which is maximum scale in Fujita scale, and meaning that even well-structured house would be swept away if they don't have deep foundations and resistance to strong wind. Besides that deadliest tornado, there have been several other tornadoes every 6 years in Bangladesh that caused reasonable damage. According to PBS.org, tornadoes mainly affect the buildings or people by two ways. First one is direct damage from tornado, which is torsion force that twists material on tornado pass. Tornado sucks up air and rotates so it creates strong pulling force to itself. According to BBC, there is a reason why tornadoes are striking Bangladesh every time, and we, the engineers, can predict that there will be more tornadoes happening again, so building shelters are important to prevent tornado damage. Tornadoes happens when there is unseasonable heat. The heat creates hot and moist air near ground, then hot and moist air heats up and mixes with cold dry air, which creates storm. Storm can cause rain, thunder, and lightning. More hot and moist air goes upward rapidly, and wind from different directions causes rotation of wind. Visible cone or funnel drops out of the clouds towards the ground. It can travel thousands of miles and varies in size and shape. Tornado can last few seconds or a few hours. Just because a tornado has many requirements, however, it is true that Bangladesh has those requirements. According to Windfinder, Bangladesh is a country that has difference in temperature by its location. By different wind direction makes the cold air to meet with hot air, which is triggered for causing tornadoes in Bangladesh. In addition, by wind coming from other direction will cause fast rotation and make the wind visible. All of the requirements happening in the same time is less likely, however every 6 years there were tornadoes in Bangladesh. We have came up with a solution that can reduce the damage the tornado has caused in Bangladesh. According to Global Humanitarian Assistance, tornado is damaging Bangladesh economically and environmentally. First, by buildings collapse and infrastructures damaged, the government needs to repair, which might be pressure to low-income country. Bangladesh government earns 19 billion a year and GDP in Bangladesh is 115.6 billion, which means repairing or building strong structure is too much pressure for government. Second, tornado can influence in farming, which is what most of the people in rural area do. Bangladesh produces 35.4 billion crops. This can impact economic growth nationally as they are exporting crops to other countries. Bangladesh government exports about 25,000 tons a year. Yet it is true that rice consumption is about 34.7 billion, which is close to the amount of crops produced. Tornado simply destroys and swipes whole field using strong wind force. With less produced crops, price of crops will increase and cause starvation to poor people who cannot afford enough money. Environmentally, tornado simply destroys the environment in its path by destructive wind force. It is less likely it would happen in tropical forests because there are no possibilities that cold air can reach. Tornado can cause positive effect to the environment as well. By storms, it cleans pollution in air by sending them away with wind force. Yet it is true that tornado cause more negative effect by destroying nature and food source for animals. If tornadoes occur frequently, it can make herbivore and carnivores starve to death, which will mean extinction of species and of course including wild, rare animals lives in Bangladesh. Royal Bengal tiger can get extinct as well, even though it is national animal for Bangladesh people. As you can see, preventing tornado damage must be done properly and quickly so there are less damage from tornadoes from now on, which will boost economic growth.
Tornado shelters have been believed that they will make a huge impact to the rate of death and injuries when the disaster occurs. We engineers have designed one that could outstand the force of tornadoes. We have calculated the right amount that we need to build and also put up a reasonable price of $4,000 per shelter, including a capacity of 3 people in a regular shelter, But for us, we came up with a shelter that must hold everyone in Manikganj district. We're planning on making a shelter per province, holding a capacity of 1,000 people per shelter. Having this to happen, we guarantee that it will be safe and secure than having no shelter at all. We believe that if this solution will take place, it will reduce the rate of death and injuries as well. Experts have said before about one tornado occurring at Oklahoma, and the shelter worked well, saving 16% of the people. When surveys have been done, surveys have gone through Oklahoma about shelters being made. Nearly all of the citizens have told us that they need government support in order to have their own shelter because they're too expensive. Since the people in Oklahoma can afford it, we will be providing a shelter that has a reasonable price as well as securing you with safety. Our shelter is surrounded by high-tech materials, having picked up a location as well. We have researched about the soil in Bangladesh and also how it might impact the shelter when it's built. Manikganj soil is loam, so the density isn't red, thick and strong. Loam are normally used in gardening and farming, so this particular type of soil is nutritional for farming with crops. So it does not make any impact towards any building of any structure at all. Loam normally contains particles of sand, silt and clay. Having seen of how it's been used as an advantage for farming, we should reconsider building the shelter efficiently. So we've picked a location that has a soil of clay, securing you with safety even more, because since air cannot go through clay, this gives the structure of full strong stable stand holding the structure as well. Talking about the structure of the shelter, we've calculated carefully as well. The roof of the shelter will be a dome because it creates a wider space for people to stay in. Although it's shaped in a dome, we will also be combining a mixture of triangles too, since it is one of the most strongest shapes being used. So when force has been pushed towards the arch, it becomes into a stable situation because it leads the whole structure to a strong situation. The triangle will then stand the arch up due to the sides of the triangle holding up the arch. If force has been pushed on the triangle, then it won't bend, since then the force will go to the sides of the triangle. The materials that we will be using is concrete, as we believe although it is cheap, this is an advantage for us because although concrete cracks, we will also consider making the walls out of concrete instead, because since the disadvantages is cracks, we believe that since the structure is buried underground, the temperature won't affect the concrete that much, so cracks isn't really that much of a problem. Since one shelter costs around $2,000 to $8,000 and 3 people could fit in a regular shelter, so then we're planning on roughly 360,000 shelters. Since we'll calculate the population of Bangladesh and also calculated how much we need, there will also be toilets in each shelter, around 20 per shelter. Water will be also provided by the government as well. People who are using the shelter will pay more money to the government by taxes or a new system. However, the country we have chosen is low-income country, which means that they might not be able to provide enough money to the government. Government revenue is roughly 19 billion, increasing every year. In addition, foreign aid that we receive is 1.5 billion US dollars. However, the cost of shelter cost over a whole population in Manikganj district is 1.4 billion dollars. Shelters are made with stainless steel and concrete, so it is not cheap to make. The government might have to take more taxes in order to provide enough money for shelter in areas, so basically people will pay more taxes, which might be pressuring low-income countries. Environmental factor. My purpose solution can be harmful to the environment as it is built underground, which can affect the soil and absorption, which then leads to messed up food chain and extinction of species. If the construction is not done properly without organized a water system, it would cause flood damage near the shelter, which is damaging the environment and causing economic damage. First, if the soil cannot absorb water well, there will be soil erosion, which will damage the agriculture, economic. It will also make the country even more poor. Second, if there is less food growing by soil erosion, animals will die in starvation. Herbivore will die first because they don't have their own source. Next, carnivore will die because they usually eat herbivores. Lastly, omnivores will die because there will be no carnivores or herbivores, which were their source of food. More importantly, Bangladesh is a country with wild animals and species that are rare and close to extinction. Third, if soil cannot absorb water well, rain will cause flood easier because ground absorb most of the rain. This can cause economic damage by damaging infrastructure, and also it is bad for farming.